Hey guys, SuperHorrorBro Mike here, and in today's video we take a look at Limbo and its ambiguous story, which has been the topic of discussion and much head scratching ever since this creepy puzzle platformer launched way back in July 2010. In Limbo, we assume the role of a young boy who awakens in a forest and seems drawn toward the light at all times, eventually discovering a young girl who is knelt before a treehouse at the end of his adventure. It's very mysterious, and with no dialogue or text at any point during this journey, everything relies on symbolism and the player's own imagination to connect those proverbial dots. If you haven't heard of Limbo before, don't worry, as this video aims not only to cover theories explaining the meaning behind the story of the game, but also briefly cover everything that happens from start to finish as well. So sit back, relax, and let's quickly cover Limbo step by step before trying to explain exactly what it's all about. As the game opens, we fade in on a young boy laying down in the depths of a dark and very ominous looking forest. He opens his eyes and sits up before setting off into the unknown ahead. He soon discovers this forest is full of dangers, from deep pools of water to pits full of spikes and bear traps that can cut him clean in two. The boy must keep his wits about him every step of the way in order to survive. Eventually, he reaches a boat which takes him across a river and into a cavernous area where he is captured by a giant spider and spun into a webbed cocoon. The boy struggles and manages to break free, with the spider soon giving chase. Eventually, the boy outsmarts his arachnid nemesis and squishes it with a giant boulder. However, he soon discovers that spiders are not the only predators out there, coming face to face with a tribe of older boys, all armed with deadly blowpipes and booby traps. Throughout this tribe's hunting ground, we see dead bodies hanged and drowned, victims who didn't have such a lucky escape. At times, the boy must even use these corpses to overcome certain obstacles that block his path forward. Eventually, the tribe catches up with the boy and he must use their own mechanical traps to defeat them. We encounter a strange maggot-like bug which has the ability to attach itself to the boy's head and burrow into his brain, controlling the direction of his movement. They are susceptible to the light shafts from above, and so scalding them on this light is the only way to alter their control over our character. To remove them from his mind, the boy must locate these strange creatures who hang from cracks in the ceiling and seem to enjoy chowing down on brain bugs. At this point, the boy's surroundings slowly begin to transform from the natural forests and caves to more man-made industrial landscapes. Before too long, the boy reaches a rundown hotel. He risks being electrocuted by its gigantic sign and also falling to his death at every step. He carefully navigates his way down into the depths of this man-made industrial hell and enters a factory full of buzzsaws and other instruments of death. At one point within this factory, we discover a hornet-like creature feasting on the corpse of a fallen traveller. By carefully sneaking up on this creature, the boy manages to finally snag a ride towards the light and possibly a way to escape this nightmarish world for good. Unfortunately, the hornet's leg snaps and the boy must continue on, his safe haven just out of reach. He navigates the interior of giant machines full of cogs, which when rotated, turn the entire environment on its head. Some of these areas are pitch black, save for a single light source, making progress incredibly challenging and often a leap of faith. Machine guns even show up and try and blast him into oblivion. The final stretch of the boy's adventure adds in a truly mind-bending game mechanic, as we are forced to reverse gravity for short periods of time in order to navigate a series of ever-challenging hurdles. At the end of this gauntlet, time slows to a crawl as the boy bursts through a pane of glass and slams into the dirt of the forest he started his journey in at the beginning of the game. From here, the boy awakens once again and makes his way up the hill, where he discovers a young girl digging in the dirt below a treehouse. She seems to sense his presence as he quietly approaches. And yes, that's it. This mysterious cliffhanger is indeed where the game ends. There is a secret final level which can be unlocked if we collect all 10 eggs hidden throughout the boy's adventure. Sadly, while this new area offers some challenging puzzles to overcome, it doesn't offer anything story-wise. So then, what is the meaning of Limbo and what exactly happens at the end? Well, there have been many theories over the years, but very few vary on anything other than the meaning of that one final shot. The dictionary defines the term limbo as the following. In some Christian beliefs, the supposed abode of the soul's unbaptized infants and of the just who died before Christ's coming. An uncertain period of awaiting a decision or resolution, an intermediate state or condition. From these definitions and the black and white surreal look and feel of the world this young boy explores, it is fairly easy to conclude that this is indeed his limbo state, a world he has entered after death in order to qualify for entry into either heaven or hell, a place where his soul must either find eternal peace or eternal damnation. It seems that in order to find peace, this boy must locate the young girl who he strives to encounter throughout his journey, but only manages to reach at its end. She is his true escape from this limbo. We'll get to why that is in a minute, but first we need to explain a little bit about what this limbo represents, and how the boy found himself here in the first place. The one constant across most limbo theories out there is found when looking at the explanation of this limbo world. It is commonly believed that each of the dangers this boy encounters are representations of events and things he feared during life. So the spider represents his arachnophobia, the rising water his fear of drowning stemming from an inability to swim. The tribe of older boys represents his peers, other kids or teenagers who would bully him and cause him a great deal of pain and anxiety during his time on Earth. The mind control grubs would then represent the boy's feeling of powerlessness during times of anxiety and depression. As the game concludes, areas become darker and almost impossible to navigate, which seem to represent the boy's fear of darkness and also isolation during life. Of course, this darkness may well also represent death's grasp itself, as the boy heads closer and closer to his transition from limbo to the other side. So all of these dangers were fears that plagued the boy while he was alive, and therefore he must overcome them in order for his soul to rest in peace. This also suggests that areas in the game also symbolise important events in this child's life. The hotel is a very prominent landmark, for example, and perhaps a place where something very bad happened to the boy or his family, a building which held a dark history in his mind. The factory full of buzzsaws was likely a place where his mother or father worked, and again potentially a source of anxiety for this boy due to how loud and dangerous a work environment it was. It's also important to note the guns we run into at certain points of this adventure. They resemble the kind of guns manufactured during World War II, and the game's entire aesthetic has a very 1920s feel. With this in mind, it may be that these factories were manufacturing weapons for the war, something that understandably people feared at the time, and so may have played into the boy's subconscious and therefore appear in his limbo. One location which is easier to place is the forest. This is because two very key events happen here. One would be the boy's awakening, both at the beginning and end of Limbo's story. The second would be the treehouse the little girl sits below, a treehouse that seems to be in ruin. The ladder is broken and the structure collapsed. And before the boy reaches this treehouse, the slow motion crash through the window, such a random event on the surface it would seem. This is where theories begin to split off and explanations vary. Many believe the smashing window pane represents the death of this young boy. He was involved in a car accident in this forest, smashing through the windscreen on impact and landing in a crumpled mess on the forest floor. He then awakens to search the forest for the soul of the other passenger who died in the accident, his little sister. The two reunite by a landmark from their childhood, their old treehouse, and after finding peace in Limbo, journey together to the afterlife. After beating the game, we are returned to the main menu, which now displays this treehouse. However, both the boy and girl are gone. In their place are two swarms of flies hovering above the ground, representing the resting place of two bodies. This car crash theory also explains why the game features several zero-gravity based puzzles toward the end. These anti-gravity moments symbolise the weightlessness the boy felt during his final moments as he was flung from the car and through its windscreen. However, other theories suggest the girl is in fact waiting below this treehouse because this is where she and her brother both passed away after falling to their deaths when the ladder collapsed on their way up. This would explain the condition of the treehouse and also why the girl waits here for her brother's arrival. On this basis, the boy's entry through the window would symbolise his escape from Limbo and entry into heaven, the place where, once again, he finds peace with his sister. Another theory notes the girl is not dead at all. Instead, she is burying her brother's body in the soil below the treehouse he died in. It is believed by certain religions that a soul cannot escape Limbo until the body has been laid to rest, so this theory is based around that concept. The boy's sister lays him to rest and then senses his spirit is behind her, which causes her to abruptly sit up in shock. The game ends so suddenly because the boy leaves Limbo at this very point and reaches the light he has been searching for this entire time. That light representing a heavenly afterlife away from the dangers of this purgatory realm. These are the three main explanations for Limbo's story, and personally I feel that this is a game where the developers didn't want any easy answers to be found. Limbo can mean pretty much whatever we want it to. This is one of the reasons why its story has been discussed so pervasively over the last decade since its original release. It's also because it's a fantastically original game like no other, so why not check it out if you like what you saw here today. With that said, this has been a video explaining Limbo and its story, and I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, remember to like, comment, and of course subscribe for more videos just like this one, and I will see you on the next one.